All right, leaders, do you want to build an unstoppable culture? One you're super proud of, one that's got a lot of momentum, one where your team is connected. Listen, cultures are kind of like kids. If you got one kid, the older kid and the younger kid, and they're just on a different page, they're fighting all the time, and there's not a lot of momentum, there's a lot of negativity. Cultures like that don't work. They end up destroying the business. And so a culture we've talked a lot about on this channel is the science, okay? Today, what you're gonna see is a lot of emotional moments. You're gonna see a lot of tears because listen, the depth that you know your people at is the depth that you can coach them at, understand them at, but also not just you coaching them, but your people knowing each other. Listen, we're all walking around broken. We all got some things, man, that we're not proud of, some things that we're super proud of. But most of the time, we don't even take the time to listen to one another. And then we want to build this strong culture, this strong bond, but we don't really know each other. We know each other at surface level. And so the goal of today's meeting was to spark some emotion. The goal of today's meeting was to really get to know each other, man. And you're going to see a lot of tears. You're going to see people get closer, and you're going to see people understand each other more. And ultimately here at the Elliott Group, we're after building a family. We're after building real connection. We're after building something different than the whole world. We don't want to be like the world. We want to be like us. And us, we're going to take care of our culture. We're going to build it stronger every day, and we're going to get to know each other deeper. So there's a lot of culture building videos on my channel for the leaders, but listen, they're not just for the leaders. If you're a salesperson, could you do this? Yes. The salespeople that can bring the culture together and create the best culture in their companies, they're the people that are going to get paid the most money, but more importantly, they're the people that are going to make the most impact in the company. So be the impactor. Be the person that's thinking bigger, that's bringing the people together. And if you can do that, you're going to have a place that you really love to work. When you see the emotion of some of these teammates, man, you wish you worked here. You wish you had something like this, okay? You can create that. If it's not out there, create it. Build it. If you don't have it, build it, okay? So today, super important. Every meeting that we have throughout the week, they're all different and they're all designed to create closeness, to create bond, to create understanding. So today's is very, very special. I'm still emotional because I'm shooting this after watching everybody go through this, and it's got me fired up, but it's got me really, ready to go connect with people and talk with them more. So it's amazing. Let's go check it out.
Thought to myself, like, what can we do more team things to get to know each other more? So I'm like, show and tell's great, right? Because some people don't know about other people's past or what they've been through. So I'm just gonna start off. I brought my box here. This is my dad's ammo box from the Marine Corps, and all of my goodies are in here that I've kept in from when I was, I don't know, forever. So I go through this box every now and then. But I wanted to share this item with everybody that's in here. There's so much stuff in here. I've been a single child for 16 years, and I never thought that my mom would have kids. So this is a birthday balloon for my first brother, Johnny. This is his happy birthday balloon when he was his first birthday. And I kept it since because I was such a proud sister. So nobody knows that, but I snagged one of the balloons from the party. Yeah, that's my one item, so thanks.
There's a lot that goes with this. I know that Selena can appreciate some of this too, but this is a shinkin, so it means it is a very sharp sword, and it will cut through some very thick stuff. And this right here symbolizes something that I became very obsessed with, and the catalyst of this whole thing was back in 2016. I got a phone call from my brother, and he said my youngest brother was murdered, and he was in amateur MMA, and he was dating a girl he found off of a dating app, and she was casing his apartment. At the time, they went on a couple of dates, and in the middle of the night, she knocked on his door. He opened it up because he saw it was her, and 3 men rushed in and took him to the kitchen, put him down on his knees in the kitchen, and my brother begged for his life. He said, I had a 5-year-old daughter, take whatever it is you want. I don't want it, just don't kill me. And he shot him in the back of the head. And after that call, I told myself, if that ever happened to me, I'll never, ever go down that way. And so right after that, maybe a couple months later, I ran into my sensei. And I'll never forget going into the class, and he asked me what did I want to learn, and I said my cup is empty, because I had previous training. And I said my cup is empty, teach me whatever it is, I'm here to learn. And from that point on, I became his fastest growing, or his fastest first black belt, first degree black belt. And from then on, I became his first second degree black belt, and then his first third degree black belt. And here in October, November, I'm going to Japan to get my fourth degree black belt. And it's in a couple of different things. So I do Japanese jiu-jitsu, which most of you don't know about. You've heard of Brazilian. Japanese was the very first jiu-jitsu that came from the emperor. So the samurai protected the emperor with this style of jiu-jitsu. And that's one, so I'm a third degree there, and I'm also a third degree in Ninpo Taijutsu, so most of you know of it as ninjutsu. So I'm a third degree black belt in that, and I'm also a first degree black belt in Japanese sword. So it was something that I really became obsessed with. I got my first degree black belt in exactly 1 year. And 6 months later, I got my first in the jiu-jitsu and first in my sword. So it's just a reminder that, you know, I got super obsessed, and how fast, when you become obsessed with something, like just how fast you grow in it. And so this is what that symbolizes for me.
Love that. You guys, back in grade school days, my parents were too poor to buy us equipment to play sports. So in 8th grade, my older brother sold his baseball cards, and he bought me football pads. And then fast forward, I played varsity football, so I played freshman football. I started varsity football in 10th grade. And then in my junior year, our team won a state championship. We were 12-1 in the state of Michigan. We were ranked 14th in the USA Today, out of all high schools. We broke all the records in Michigan. I was all over the newspaper, but here's the front page article. We played against a team that was City League champions in Grand Rapids, and we were OK Red champions. So it was like an urban team that were coming up to our stadium, like talking smack, and then we smacked them 40-0. That was the front page. I got into the Hall of Fame a couple years ago, so like, you know, I flew back and got to see my coach, and really thanked all my coaches, you know, because like they were the early mentors that helped guide us to be able to win. So that was super cool.
Anybody guess what mine is?
Wrong. Mine's wrong. The liver king.
That's literally why I brought it though, is because this was me growing up. Like I was a fat kid my whole life. So seriously, so one day, like fat kid forever. I was embarrassed to take my shirt off at the pool. It was terrible. I was never the fastest kid. I was always like kind of coordinated, but I was never super athletic. So I was fat. I was really fat, and it sucked. But one day when I was like 19, I walked into this like supplement shop, and I saw this freaking jack dude. He was like probably the size of Tommy. And the guy was like, yeah, man, we all take this stuff called SARMs. And they were brand new. And I was like, dude, that's sick. What's a SARM? I thought it was just some supplement, because it was in a supplement shop, so I'm like, it can't be bad. And then basically what he was saying was, it's just like steroids, but there's no side effects. I'm like, cool, horseshit. Let's do that. It got me too, buddy. Dude, and I freaking bought the bottle. It says not for human consumption. But I was like, that guy's jacked, whatever. So I did it, freaking put on like 25 pounds of muscle, killed it. But after that, it destroyed my health. Like super, super bad, to the point where I'm 20 years old and I'm like, my body's not working. Like I couldn't think, I couldn't get out of bed. I was super depressed. And I had to go on this journey where no doctor, every doctor told me it wasn't possible to heal my body. Like they said it wasn't possible for you to heal your testosterone. You're gonna have to go on TRT the rest of your life. So I did it for a year. And then I remember there was this point where it just didn't make sense to me. So I started researching all this nutrition, weird shit, liver, glass bottles, all this crazy stuff you guys see me rant about all the time. So like for me, it's funny, but this is like a symbol to me because now my mom's whole clinic, they don't believe me. They're like, no, we know you're taking something. But I'm not. I healed myself naturally. So like, to me, it's the liver, baby.
Jesse. Hi. I'm gonna try to do this quick so I don't cry. girls several times.
Yeah.
I look at her every single day. Like, I literally look at her every day because I'm proud of her. I can't stand her. I don't give a shit about her, but I am proud that she did the work every day, didn't give up. So yeah. And I still do, so there's another version coming.
Today, I brought my boxing tie-ups for my hands. When I was a kid, I was an angry kid. For those who don't know, I was adopted from Russia, and I was very confused about my history, about who I was. You know, everybody had their parents, everybody had their siblings. I just never felt like I could relate, so I grew really, really angry myself at not knowing. I always carry these with me because it's a representation of like fighting through the trauma that I went through growing up as a kid and having an outlet for that. So whenever I get upset or whenever I get angry or something like that, and I get like super upset about things, it's way better now, but I used to do boxing a lot. Even before I could even afford to go to a boxing class, I would go to my buddies who would go, and they would teach me techniques, and they would like, you know, just get out all your energy, punch, 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 punch. You just work until you can't stand up anymore. And then finally I joined my first boxing class when I was younger, and these are my first pair of actual like wraps that I had, and I only used them once, and then I bought another pair, and I said I'm gonna carry these with me every single time, so when I get upset and I get angry, I'll hold these and I'll hold them tight, and I said, look, you're in a different place now, you can do better, and you don't have to be that man anymore. So,
I got this picture, and I'll explain what this is to me, but this is my wrestling team my freshman year. And I started wrestling when I was in 5th grade. And I just remember, my parents got divorced around, I think it was like 4th or 5th grade. And I remember looking at my dad, and I was like, Dad, I just want to wrestle. Like, cause I was kind of like that. My older brother was 10 years older, my sister was 8 years older, so I was kind of like the last little one in the house. And I was just kind of like really angry. And so I was like, I feel like I had that awareness when I was like a little kid, and I was like, I feel like I should wrestle, because I could probably like whoop someone's ass right now. Because it was always just like super chaos in my life. You know, going back and forth in between the courts and stuff like that, like fighting for custody. I remember all my shirts, the little back of the tag, either said mom or dad on it. It was just like a really weird point in my life when you're, 10 years old. So I started wrestling, and I get to high school, and I always just loved being around the right team. And there's this moment, there's this moment that I always replay in my head. So I was 14 here in this picture, and this is district finals for our whole high school district. We had one of the toughest districts in the entire state. This is me at 113 pounds. And before I was going out there was this wrestler that was really good, and my coach was like, hey, try your best. Hey, this guy's like really tough. And the whole team was kind of like already counting me out. So this guy was 18, I was 14, and I was like psyching myself out. I beat this guy once before he had beat me in the season, and we always saw each other, so we knew each other wrestled. And I remember just being so pissed off and like looking this guy in his soul, because everyone was already basically like saying that I was gonna get second. And I was like, I'm not the fucking shortest kid, because everybody was like kind of just like, that feeling when someone's like already kind of counting you out, even my own like coaches. Yeah. So I went out there and whooped this dude's ass. And this 18-year-old was sitting on 2nd place podium, and I always replay this moment in my head because I caught him on his back and I beat him by like a shit ton of points. And I remember just replaying this moment in my head, like whenever I go down, just being that comeback kid when all odds are like against you. This guy was literally 18 years old, looks like a grown man on the podium. And I always replay this moment in my head, just like, when everyone's counting you out, you can always come back and crush it. And then also too, just being around the right team, is awesome. Because it's kind of, I was that guy where it's like, sales, this is like an individual sport, but it's also a team sport. Yeah. So it's like the same thing as sales. Like when you go out, like on that mat, you're literally one-on-one, then you come back and like whatever you put up is kind of contributes to the team. And so for me, like this is all I've really known, like it's just being around like the right team, around the right players, because, it's just cool. It's just the same thing.
Yep.
For me, I have a couple things. I have this, which my son made me. It means a lot to me because my son's very creative. He does little weird things like this, right? And I look at him and I see the childlike innocence that's within this boy, and everything I do is really for him, And then also too, I know a lot of you guys have this, but I wear mine, and it means something to me because Andy gave me this probably about 4 or 5 years ago. right? But he gave it to me at a time in my life where I was super, super lost. My cousin just been murdered right before that. And he knew that. He knew I was going through a tough time. And when I read this, it just reminds me of how strong I truly am and all the things I really, really have been through. Because you guys know a lot about me, but sometimes when I tell you truly about my life, I don't know if you guys believe me or if you think it's just coming from a movie. But like, there's a lot of shit that's went on, you know, and through all the shit, I still smile. You know, I still smile, I still make my way through it, but this really helps me. And no matter what, I probably will wear this for the rest of my life. So that's what I got, guys.
So back in the day, before we had this new den, we used to do the seminars in that school, and it was October 2021 was the first time I came out here, right? And you guys remember they used to put the drawings on the whiteboard?
Yes.
So I remember I came out here, right? And October 2021, like I figured out how to make like 10K a month selling cars, but I was still like dealing with a lot of shit. Like I was like doing drugs, hanging around the wrong people. I was honestly like lost as right? And I remember after like talking to DK, the twins, I was like, you know what, fuck it, man, I'll come out to an event, right? Like I'll come see what's up. And me and G are sitting there. And there's this picture on the wall, and in the first 2 hours of the seminar, like Andy goes into just talking about this right here. Because like at the time, like I was telling myself like, hey, I can't be successful because my parents are drug addicts. Like I can't overcome that. Like it's his fault, it's her fault. And everybody remembers their first Andy Elliott lecture, right? Yeah. And this was mine, and it hit me so hard. I was like, I told you, I was like, this motherfucker talking to me? You know what I'm saying? I was like, did he draw this for me? And I remember the whole time I was like, you know, Gia started tearing up. I was like, don't cry, maintain strength. But I was like, I was about to cry, you know? And I walked out, and dude, literally like this was the first of many like identity shifts that I had, but this was like the first one. And I remember, dude, me and Gia got in the airport. It was so funny, and like she has never seen me cry. And like we were boarding the airport, and we were just like talking about the event. I started crying. She's like, you're crying. And I'm like, dude, I feel like I just became a new person this weekend. You know what I'm saying? So I remember like for my birthday this past year, Gia was like, hey, I got you this great gift. And I'm like, Gia, I swear to God, if you freaking ran my Amex for 10K for Sonic cold plunging I told you about, I'll be so pissed. Like, you better not spend like crazy dough. And then she gives me this, and I'm like, dude, this is like the most valuable thing in the world to me. Because like I look at it, and it takes me back to that state I was in, right? Like it takes me back to how I felt when this happened. So.
What does it say?
I love it. It says, accept responsibility for everything in your life. Stop blaming, pointing fingers at others. You have to believe in your heart that your life is a reflection of all your decisions.
So cool, brother.
I got two things out of my garage this morning. They were in my house, and I didn't realize, like Greg, when you're moving, I was like, where's all this stuff that I had in my old house? One of the things is, you know, my grandparents were married for like 62 or 63 years or something, you know what I mean? So I had this family that like my grandparents were full of impact. They started some of the biggest and best schools in the country. Like they literally wrote the curriculum for it. My grandfather was like really smart, and so he went and did all this really cool stuff. The whole city knew him for it. He was like, he could walk into a room and everybody was like, oh shit, you're that guy. And I never really understood. I just always saw it as like him, because he was always, you know, doing these seminars, and he was always speaking. He was really loud, and I was just like, holy shit, this guy's crazy. But you know, he always ran off of purpose. So like, I saw it, but you know, when you're a kid and you're close to something, you don't really like value it. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, it's just him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I kind of equated to, I had like a rich dad, poor dad. Like, you know, I had this guy that's like rich in like life and in like purpose, and then like everybody looked up to him, the whole neighborhood looked at. And then I had this dad that was like a piece of shit that nobody liked. That this dude was an alcoholic. He's got 20 kids. We find a new one every other month. It's like, it's crazy, right? And so I kind of grew up like valuing the hood of like the grind and the hustle, and living between like one neighborhood that was really good and one neighborhood that was really bad. And I just didn't know how to decipher like what it was. I was like, man, I grew up fighting like Edward. I grew up like, you know, but I also grew up like with this guy that was like so impactful. And I felt like until I was older, I never really understood it till it was like almost too late, till I was like, you know, 18, 19 years old. And I was like, dude, you're like, everything that you've said, it's like now clicking. It's like now making sense. But it took my whole life for it to click. Like I was just listening, but like not really present, right? And so my grandparents were really amazing. The fact that they were together for like 60 something years just shows you like just, it's crazy. They had never been separated other than Vietnam and like Korea War or something. And so my grandma, in her house, they lived in the same house for like 60 years. I would go there because it's still there. You know, my family hasn't gone back and like deal with it. I think it's just still too hard, you know what I mean? But this was one of the things in their house, and every time I go there, I just like grab something off the wall, because you can do that for like 1,000 years, because it's just, you know what I mean? It's just like there's shit everywhere. So last time I went there, I grabbed this, and I grabbed this one this morning because this one was super special, because I think it really, it kind of hits home to, you know, what I believe the Elliott group is doing. And so I was picking through a bunch of shit. I was like, wow, this one is kind of like what my grandma was always talking about, family. And I never really understood it because I was just a little lost. So it says, there's a special kind of closeness that only families know that begins with childhood. I equate that to like now, the journey, like when we were in, you know, when we were at the school, like we have these things about each other that only us know because we get to go on this journey together, right? And it's like super special. But that begins with childhood, trust, and then deepens as you grow. There's a special kind of comfort in knowing your family. And then it says, our family. And then it says, to go back up and cheer you up, to understand and take care of all of the treasures in life that they may bring your family. Means the most, and whatever near or far apart, the love that you will hold close to you, there to back you up, there to cheer you up, there to understand and take care of all of the treasures life may bring you and your family. And whether near or far apart, that love will always hold close to you. I kind of looked at that this morning and I was like, you know, like with Jackie and Andy gone, we're able to like stay close, and no matter what, like we got each other. And I always, you know, as my family was like going through all this stuff, I always really had the Elliott group. I always really had, like, for the last 5 years, you know, it's like all we've known, right? It's like, so to me, when we were starting this, it wasn't really like, you know, they always said, hey, we're not starting a company, we're starting a family. Like, we're gonna have kids that grow together. And the journey of like kids growing together is so important, because it's like, dude, if you don't have those kinds of people around your kids, like what are they catching? You know, even though I wasn't aware of like maybe what my grandfather did, I still caught a lot of the things from him, and I still caught a lot of the things from my dad, right? Like I could be either person, right? And so it's like a lot of that stuff to me from the Elliott group is like what we're trying to create, which is like something that when you look up 10 years from now, you only have memories, you only have experiences. You won't remember the check from this week. You won't remember any of that. You'll just remember like how cool it was to do all, and it's gonna sound so much cooler 5 years from now, so much cooler 2 years from now, because you're not even gonna remember the storm. You're only gonna remember the results. And so I thought about that. That was really special to me. And then the last thing my grandfather had, he was crazy as hell. If you ever got in his car, he was like riding it with, you just didn't even understand. Like he would run, he would never, he was like the most positive person ever, but he would cut people off. And like I remember this one time he cut somebody off, and the guy pulls up and he has a gun, and he's holding the gun out of the window. I'm like 10, and my grandfather's like, and just keeps driving, and the guy's like trying to, and then my grandfather's going faster, and then my grandfather like scoots over and like taps his car. And I'm like the guy with the gun, like, you know, and where he kind of got that driving, and it got worse as he got older. Like he had this in front of his house. He would pull up, and if you parked in his spot in front of his house, he would move your car with his car. At 7 years old, the neighbors would be calling me. They're like, he's moving cars, and he would just he'd park his car behind yours, and he didn't care. He'd move it out of the way, and then he'd get out. The cars would still be connected, and he'd go right inside like nothing ever happened. And you'd be like, dude, you just hit that car. And he's like, they shouldn't be parking there. Tell them to file an insurance claim. I got insurance. And I'm like, but my grandma always stood with my grandpa through all the crazy times, through all the crazy and things that he would do. Like the people that he was with, like the kind of the Elliott group would tell us all of these things. He would put all of his money into it. He never had any money. He had money to survive, but he put everything that he had into those 2 schools back home. And he was a Ford Observer driver, and that's where that driving comes from, because back in the day they didn't have maps in the Army. What you did was you sent the craziest out in the car, and then he drove as furthest as he could get towards the battle line, and then he would just take a right, and then he would just drive as fast as he could, and like they'd shoot at him, they'd be trying to kill him, and they would map out like the battle lines, right, Earl? And so like these guys were insane. He did that for years in the Vietnam War, in the worst country, like in the, like it's most of them died, like 95% of them died, but he chose that job. He was like, that's the job I want. Like I want to go do that. And so my grandpa always just had this courage. He always had this belief. He always had this, like, he was just crazy as hell. But this is a picture from him, and my grandma wrote on the back of it something. She just, and I can't read her handwriting either, but they would write each other letters, and they would just stand together, and they were just, man, they were just like different humans, you know what I mean? And now you look back and you're like, dude, that was the coolest shit that they did. I didn't understand it growing up, but I don't know, it was just cool. He was a psycho. You know, he always just played everything that he had, man. He when I met Andy, he was the closest thing that I could see like to Andy, because he would walk in a room and he'd just start, we'd be at dinner in a restaurant like this, and he'd just start singing, and you'd be like, I'd be kind of embarrassed. Dude. You know, and he'd be singing, he'd be walking around, and he just didn't care what people thought, you know what I mean? And I think that skill of like not caring what people think is like one of the greatest skills you could have. It always led him right, and so just was special to me. I really like this family part because I think that's just who we are. We're trying to create all these memories together that we'll always remember forever. So, yeah.
This is a painting. It's in my office here at home. But so right here, there's my sister-in-law painted this picture. So on the left here, this is it's called a Bodhi tree. So obviously you guys know my son's named Bodhi. So she painted this picture of a Bodhi tree. And on the right side, there's a pillar with ivy wrapped around it. And she put a verse on there, and it said, may your sons flourish like trees planted by streams of water, and may your daughters be graceful pillars carved in a palace. So like it's obviously a pillar with ivy wrapped around it. So for me, with my kids, it's just super important having that in front of me at all times. Like Ian was talking about, the joy of just getting to have my kids around caliber of people like this, on top of that with their kids, it's everything I wanted and why I came down here. So yeah, having that as a reminder in front of me of my kids and just the community we have is amazing. So yeah, it's awesome. I'll bring it in sometime, but I didn't want to pull it off the wall. So
I think the biggest thing is that when Bryson and I moved out here, we didn't, I mean, his family is quite a bit more established, but me personally, like my family's never been established, and we always grew up poor. Like my whole family for generations has been poor. And my grandmother was adopted, so we don't know who her family is. And so I don't really have a lot of family things. And when I was growing up, childhood wasn't really fun from what I remember a lot of the times. There are some fun moments and some things I remember, especially with my sister, but when Bryson and I made the big decision to come out here, we left everything behind. My mom has this big chest that was passed down from her mom, and it's full of stuff, and I've never even seen what's inside the chest. I just know my mom has had it for a really long time. But I guess because of the way that we grew up, it's not that I don't love and care about my family, but truly when we came out here, we were like, we're starting completely over. And because no one inside of my family ever did anything great, no one's ever gonna remember them. And so for me, a lot of our legacy actually starts with us. And my family struggled a lot, and I'm extremely grateful for the struggles that they brought to me early in life, because that's been able to build me to who I am today. And truly, I think that is the legacy of my family, is that they created me to come and be a part of what we're doing here. And so I don't have a whole lot of momentums or things like that. And when we moved, we literally packed up trash bags of clothes and 4 cardboard boxes with like essentials to live. And that's all that we came here with. We didn't have anything else other than, you know, the only momentum is really our wedding bands would be like the only thing, but we had nothing else when we came here. So everything to me at this point is really materialistic. Bryce and I live a pretty simple life. We don't even own any of our furniture because we don't really give a shit about stuff like that. But for everything that we've been through, I don't think that I actually need like a momentum or anything like that. I have what I think is like the beginning of something so much bigger, which is us coming out here and starting at ground zero with you guys. So thank you for that. And then Bryson was
like what Sean was saying, and Maria and most of you guys in here, like when we moved out here, we didn't bring anything with us. And I just remember like vividly, like us, she would be like standing outside the shower, I'd be in the shower, because our old house in North Carolina, and we would just be like screaming at the top of our lungs because she saw like a version of our life where we were like just like living exactly how we wanted to, around the people that we wanted to, doing what we wanted to do, and making as much money as we wanted to. And I was such a logical person, I could never make sense of it. I was like, you're not selling me on it. Like, how are we gonna get there? We're making 200 grand a year. And I'm like, it doesn't add up. Like, people like us don't get there. And it's just crazy because we're standing on a 100-foot yacht with a guy closing me on getting my helicopter pilot license, and we're being paid to be there with great people. And I just look at Maria and I'm like, whose life are we living right now? And the owner of that yacht was him and his wife were, there's one in the Brotherhood, by the way, but they had these rings on, and not like flashy rings, but just like super simple bands. And we were like, what are these rings? And they showed us, and they said NFJ, like just barely like scribed on the inside of it. And they told us this story about how whenever they were at the lowest point of their life, of their relationship, they were literally about to sleep like under a bridge with their kids. And they thought that everything was over, and they saw this ad for like a $2 ring off of Pinterest or some shit like that. And they got them engraved with NFJ, and it stood for 9-figure Jen and 9-figure Josh. And because they knew that they were built for more, that it just wasn't their time yet. And they needed to focus on becoming the right people that they needed to become. And literally like 3 years later, they're worth 9 figures. And they're like the most godly people. And so we both have one that says NFK, not for like earning 9 figures, but just for like the people that 9-figure Kirby's, or the Kirby's that are going to be running a 9-figure division of this company, like the people that we have to be to become that. And so like anytime we want to sleep on the couch, or like not go for a run, or like not do what we know we have to do, it's just like having this ring here that just like reminds you like, hey, like you're not there yet, but it's there for you. Just like you got to go get it.
Yeah. What does 9-figure Kirby do?
Yeah.
I brought something that represents the day that my brain broke. And I think for us, like everything that we do, Ian and I and some of the leaders here, like we're trying to break through your brains every day. Because I feel like once you see it, you can't unsee it. We've all talked about that moment. But for me, it was, I'd always exchanged time for money. So I had a really successful photography business, multiple locations, multi-6 figures. And I always thought like, I didn't really know how to get like past that. Every business owner I knew, everybody who was successful that I knew, traded a service or their time for money. I didn't know anybody who had like a franchise. I didn't know anybody who was selling stuff online. Like that wasn't real. And then back in 2020, I launched a photography course online using all the knowledge and stuff that I had learned basically when I built my business. And we used a program called Kajabi. It's kind of like Go High Level. And so as you'd make sales, they would send you pins. So the first time, our first $1,000, we got a box with $1,000 little pin. And then we got one for $10,000. And then we got one for $50,000. And then they sent me this one, which is $250,000. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. But in that same week, I actually hit $500,000. And then about 4 months later, it was like about $875,000. And I did this in a span of 12 months. But for whatever reason, they stopped sending the pins. Okay, like they stopped sending them. And I sent emails and I was like, hey, like you told me I was supposed to get a box of my pin. It's not here. Like I really want my pin. And because I had to like plan to do like a shadow box and everything, and they never sent it to me. And so this is my special, I made my own. And it says 500K, right? Because that was the next level of earnings. And so I put it right next to all of the other pins on my window so I could look at it. But what really this signifies is this moment that I can't fix in my head anymore, because like I can never go back. I can never go back to just trading, my time or a service for money, because I know that now my knowledge and my expertise can be monetized. And every single person that you are here in this room, you are the same. You guys have the knowledge of what it takes to help someone learn a skill that they need to make money. And that's what you're selling every single day. So I hope that you guys all have your brains broken today and you go to a new level of understanding and earnings and never go back. So that's great.
All right, you made it to the whole video. That means you're the 1%er. That means you're wanting to build the best culture ever, and you get it. You understand. So on the bottom here, there's another video that you can watch. There's tons of culture building videos on this channel for leaders, but I want you to click that link, and I want you to go to this next video, and I want you to continue to keep going down the culture rabbit hole of these videos. The culture is the #1 thing that you need to build as a business. It will protect you, insulate you, it'll make you economy proof, it'll make you dangerous, and it'll give you the best quality of life. So watch that video down below, and I'll see you at the other video.